I don't believe that premarital sex makes worthless what God has called holy.
Here's the truth about waiting until marriage.
It's rough.
Real rough.
And it was hard out here for a pin. Trying to get the money for the ring.
Roll the intro.
So boom.
What's up, y'all?
Welcome back to our channel.
Waiting until marriage to have sex.
Take a deep breath and think before you let go.
Took it back. I forgot about that song.
Yeah. And the gold little son. Run away.
I know that joint. And the world was so cold.
Okay. All right. Okay. So, our truth. We actually did a live on my personal channel, like days before the wedding, about our entire story. So I will link it in the description box. But pretty much, long story short, we didn't enter marriage as virgins. We've had sex with other people. We've had sex with each other.
Yeah. When we dated, like for anybody who watched our first video about like how we started, we dated in college and we was busting it open in college.
In it. Yeah, so that very fleeting relationship that we had really no foundation of God.
No.
At one point, the rings.
Oh, we had purity rings.
I first.
I mean, of course you first, but okay.
I had a purity ring first, and then he got one. And I don't know if we thought that it was going to be some magic
I did probably
force field in between us, but yeah, no.
Yeah. Also, I know we weren't having like a lot of sex when we were back then, but we were having sex.
Yeah.
And then it definitely wasn't like once the purity ring started. I mean, it didn't stop us, but it also like it's not like, yeah.
So long story short, back in 2014, we was busting it open for each other, and if you guys watch that video, you guys know that we went our separate ways for 5 years. Separate ways. Here I go again.
Separated for 5 years.
Separate ways for 5 years, and we was busting it open for other people. Long
story short. Look,
honestly,
right? We can't even sugarcoat it. We were having sexual relations. It was sex.
Yeah.
We were in the world.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And of the world.
Right.
So, we dated back in 2014, and then
broke up. Got back together in 2019. Started courting the end of 2019, and got engaged in April of 2020.
Right.
That's when it started getting super real as far as the temptation. Because we started off strong. November when we started off strong.
Even in the beginning of engagement, I guess let me speak for myself. For me, I was cool.
Yeah.
In the beginning, like the first few months of engagement.
Yeah, the first few months we were very strong. First few months of engagement we were very strong.
And then like any other human being who falls short of the glory of God,
we busted open.
we did.
Yeah.
in the summertime.
Yes, and it's also because we're attracted to each other. You about to,
duh.
Yeah, but like some people, like I feel like that escapes some people, the thought of it, or even people who just assume like.
And it wasn't only because that.
No, I know. I'm saying, but that was as a point. That's one of the reasons, like, because although recording and the goal was to wait, like to be honest with people and to ourselves, like you're very attracted to the person you're with, or if you are, like, no, for real. if you are very attracted to the person you're with, sometimes like. I can't speak for you, but I forget, like, dang, oh, shoot, like, we wait, and I know that, but, yo, she is fine. Or you start kissing, and you're like, oh.
Yeah,
and like,
yeah. Mm-hmm. So, it wasn't just the attraction. It was, yes, the attraction was, and to add to that, lack of boundaries. So, attraction plus lack of boundaries equals, bust it. Equals sex.
Yeah.
At least for us.
Yeah.
The intense attraction. So the intensity of our attraction to each other, plus lack of boundaries or lack of enforcing the boundaries.
Right.
So we talked about boundaries, but there was a lack of enforcing boundaries when we were like in the midst of
right in the because we were good when everything was good. Then when it got hot and heavy,
kissing
for us, kissing. So we did it like it's not like we were doing it all the time. We did it like twice.
We had sex twice.
Yeah.
When we were engaged.
Yeah.
And both times I felt terrible. That was this. So this is something that we'll talk about later, but the heaviness of the condemnation that I felt was just, I thought that it was over, that it was done for, that the promise was tainted. I thought that it was ruined.
And why did you think that? Like, where did that come from?
Yeah, so I thought that because of, I knew that this was something God ordained. I knew that God called us to come together in a covenant, in marriage. And I know how special that is. And so the condemnation came from years and years of believing that sex was bad. And that, sex, I think the messages that I got, yes, I got the messages of, just wait until marriage, but I think the bulk of those messages said sex is bad. Not premarital sex, but just sex is bad, right? And so when we had those two slips, that weight just felt so heavy, so unbearable for me. I literally sat there and cried because I just felt so disgusting. I felt like a failure, like I fell short, too short to be redeemed from it. And so
that was heavy. And I felt bad as a dude, because I think it comes off as, oh, you really don't want to wait, Steve. You really just trying to, you know what I'm saying? I know that wasn't the case. Like, we know that wasn't how it happened. But also, like, when I saw you feel like that, I was like, dang, I let her down. And I think it's important to say that is not the case. That's not the truth, right? It's not like we failed God as if we're going to surprise him saying, oh, we slipped up. Exactly.
like in the garden.
right. It's like we didn't fail God with that. God knew we were going to slip up.
Yeah.
God knew exactly what it was. But also, like you said, hearing that sex is bad. It's like, I think if people knew or were taught in depth, especially like in church, then maybe the shame, because I feel like shame was the thing that sounds like it came with that, and like shame will make you do or not do a lot of different things. You know what I'm saying? So shame could have made you not want to have sex anymore, even when we got married. Like shame could have just meant it could have came in different type of ways, and I think if we were taught, right, that like,
and I wrote about that in my post about how even after marriage, it was still a struggle in my mind.
Oh, you didn't think that sex is good, right? And I think if going back, because a lot of people, first of all, being like a kingdom couple, I think it's important to know that like we all, for the most part, have had some type of influence from church. You know what I'm saying? But understanding that like church doesn't teach it. Most churches aren't gonna like teach it the way that I believe it should be taught, in terms of shame shouldn't come with it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Shame shouldn't be like, oh, you had sex, you're damaged goods. Yeah. So,
and that's like a Pharisee mindset, right?
Right. Yeah. Like because how can we preach that Jesus has died for our sins and God forgives us and God gives us grace, but then automatically, you know, like slap you in your face for slipping up somewhere.
Yeah, and it's not to say that, so even in the Bible where it says, you know, God gives us grace, not to abuse it.
Right,
so,
right.
And so knowing, okay, God does not condemn us. So if I feel condemned, I know that it is not from God.
Right.
God does not shame us. So if I feel shame, I know that it is not from God. And God gives me grace. God has already accounted for every single mistake that I would make. God has already accounted for every single slip, every single fall, every single accident that would happen. God isn't surprised. God was not surprised those times that we slipped.
Right.
He had already accounted for that. His grace had already covered that. And it's not to say keep going, keep doing it, but learn.
Right.
Learn from the previous experience.
Like he gives us conviction in those moments.
Yes.
And because God made sex for a reason, right? So he wants us to. I took from it like in those slip ups, like dang, messed up, but we're not down and out. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like we didn't ruin, because we're still getting married, but because we put so much pride in knowing that we're with our kingdom spouse, right? I'm with you, and we're gonna be together. It still doesn't, for me, it still didn't take away from knowing that, like, all right, this woman's gonna be my wife, and I still want to share that with her the right way. Yeah. It's not like, oh, we're gonna get married, so
we get married anyway, so might as well.
Because it's a difference. So I think for me, like, that helped me to keep looking at it like, all right, we slipped up. We know we slipped up. We know we feel bad about it because we've had sex before outside of marriage. We had sex before with each other, other people, and we want to be able to give each other something, right? We want to be able to give each other this moment, and I don't think that was ruined by us slipping up. You know what I'm saying? Because the conviction let us know, like, dang, yeah, all right, but like, it was motivation to be like, all right, boundaries. What are the boundaries that we have to set for us?
What do we have to do to ensure that we don't fall into this trap again? Yeah,
and make it a thing. You know what I'm saying? And once we set boundaries, but like it was very much worth it because you know what I'm saying? Because once wedding night came, like it was, mind you, but no, for real, because knowing that, and I think this is good to know because
it didn't compare.
Yeah,
it did not compare. So like me sitting on the edge of the bed, like, oh, I ruined it, like that did not compare to y'all. Y'all, come here. Let me tell you a secret. Married sex. That's what they don't say.
Right.
That's what they don't say. They don't say how good God is. Woo, thank you, Jesus. They don't say how good. All right, anyway.
No, but yeah. No, for real. Because, like, and it means something. I think because people who may be watching may be in the same boat that we were, you know what I'm saying? Like, you weren't a virgin going into your marriage. You know what I'm saying? You may have slipped up. But, like, if you think about God making sex, because God could have made sex just for procreation. Like, he could have made it not pleasurable.
If that was the case, yeah.
He could have just made it like something our bodies just go, we need this right now, do, and then we're done. You know, like certain animals. Like certain animals, yeah. Like, you know what I'm saying? Certain animals, the majority of animals, like, it's boom, boom, boom. But he made it pleasurable for a reason. You know what I'm saying? And because it was meant to be in marriage, sex in the confines of marriage, it makes sense. So, like, even if you slipped up, even if you feel like you messed up, even if you feel like you've, I soiled it. Like,
insert.
Soiled it.
But even if you feel like that, don't keep that shame with you, because, like, all you gotta do, really truly ask for forgiveness. Because if you feel that conviction, then that's something. I can't really say anything to you if you're doing, but you don't feel any conviction.
Yeah.
Maybe if you're watching this video and you never felt conviction and you start feeling conviction, but listen to that joint. Try to make adjustments. It's not gonna be overnight. So, if you know what I'm saying. So give yourself grace. But
and even if, and something you said, ask God for forgiveness and know that God forgives you. Trust that God has already forgiven you, and then forgive yourself. Because who am I to still hold on to something that God has already forgiven me for? Who am I to still hang on to this shame, like a blanket that comforts me,
right,
when God has already forgiven me for that thing?
Get rid of the blanket. You don't need it.
Yeah. And sometimes it is just like a blanket, like a comfort, because I need to sit in this. I need to sit in this, because without it, then what if this and what if that? What if I can't live up to this? Or what if I can't?
Right. Yeah.
And so holding on to this is more comfortable. It's familiar.
Right. Let go of it. Because, like, once you let go of it and understand, because, like, really, we had our moments where, like, we was like, dang, I don't know, we slipped up, God not gonna forgive it. Like, we all, we went through those moments, and then realizing, like, nah, he called us for a reason. We're supposed to get married. So, we're on the same page, bet. What do we need to do?
Yeah.
And we started setting boundaries.
So the boundaries were, we did a few kissing fasts.
Yeah.
So I think we did a 30-day one. The longest one we did was that 60-day one.
Yeah, so you did like a 2-week.
Yeah. So we did increments since we knew. So one thing that we would tell you guys, if you are in your waiting season with your partner, your courtship partner, set boundaries, and also know what are your triggers. What are your light switches? What turns that light switch on? Okay, if you know what I'm talking about.
What turns you on? Know what turns you on with your partner. You gotta give it to them straight. Know what turns, because once
what
you know,
like,
right? Know what. Yeah.
And when you know that, then you know how to set boundaries and where to set those boundaries. So for us, kissing was that was the first one. Tap kisses.
Oh yeah. Oh, we couldn't make out.
No making out. That was the trigger. Making out, heavy kissing. Yeah, that was leading to places.
And that just a real quick point too. Understand that it may be different. Kissing was never something of mine in any previous relationships or any previous partners. That was never like, it was just like whatever. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't a big kisser at all, actually. So, like, it may be different with the person you're meant to be with. Kissing with me was like, oh, you know what I'm saying? So just understand that it may not be what you also thought your old trigger was or anything like that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. So that's why it's so important to know and learn yourself, and also have a conversation, have plenty of conversations with your partner about, okay, so let's lay it all on the table.
Yeah.
What turns you on, and not for me to do these things now, but so I know where to set boundaries, so we know where we will set our boundaries. For example, you can say, well, kissing doesn't bother me, but it bothers you, so let's cut that out. What about, hugging, or
it can be whatever. And just know, like, it sounds crazy, or like, yo, I can't be with not kissing. Like, it may not be the same for you, or it may feel like, oh, how do I do? I can't, or that's not, like, just understand that if you know this is your person, and you know those boundaries need to be set, or like, we keep slipping up, try it. And I realized with us, at least, when we went through our kissing fast, I feel like our friendship also grew. Like, our friendship was growing in general, but like, when we took certain things out, right? Like, we still found, it's like,
it was still fun.
Yeah, so I think that helps now.
We still found joy in little things.
Right. So when the kissing came back on, and like when we got married and all stuff, it's just like, oh shoot, we already had everything else. So now we adding this back in the mix. Oh.
Boop. Let's pop in that kiss, that wedding video.
You may now kiss your bride.
Yeah. So we went on a 60. The longest fast we did, as Meek said, we went on a 60-day fast.
60 days.
So 60 days.
No kissing.
Right. So
not even tap kissing.
Nah. Like, so 2 months before we got married, we decided we are going to wait. It was very worth it. I'm not even going to.
Oh yeah, it was so worth it. Because that you may now kiss your bride.
So yeah.
So the next thing that we should definitely mention is purity, and how a lot of the times I think a lot of people have a skewed understanding. They have a skewed understanding of what purity is, and that if you're a virgin and you go into marriage as a virgin, then you're pure. And let's just say, for the record right now, that is absolutely false. Virginity does not equate to purity. And so here's what I mean when I say that. You can be a virgin and still lust for things. You can be a virgin and still lust in your heart after things, still watching pornography, still lusting after people, not pure in your mind or in your heart. And that's what real purity is. Having a pure heart, having a pure mind, not just pure in the sense of I've never had sex before.
Not just pure in the physical.
Right. And so God honors purity, but a pure heart. That's what God honors. Yes, it's good to, not have sex at all. But if you have,
like, it doesn't disqualify you.
Yes. So if you have, it doesn't.
Right.
It doesn't disqualify you if you have had sex already. It doesn't mean that you cannot be pure, but ask God to purify the parts of you that have been tainted by the world. Ask God to look into your heart and to remove those stained parts. Ask God to purify those parts that have been tainted by the world. And He will do it, as long as it's a real and a pure desire and intention of yours. Right. And so even if you have had premarital sex, I don't believe that premarital sex makes worthless what God has called holy. And I think that part is left out of the teachings in church, at least when I was growing up in church.
Yeah, they don't, because that takes, like, the shame that comes with everything they say doesn't leave room
Right.
It doesn't leave room
Right.
for that.
It does. There is no room for the truth, capital T, which is God created sex, which means that sex is good because everything God creates is good, right? And so sex is not only good, but it's holy. And those two within the confines of marriage. And that's what I wish that I knew growing up. I did not have a sex talk. No one talked to me about sex. Anybody talk to you?
Kind of like, but at the point, I think my mother may have, but it was at a time when I already knew. And then my pops did too. He was like, my pops is, he picked me up from my at the time I was like 14, my girlfriend's house at the time. He was like, what you know about French kissing? I'm like, oh man, French kissing. But like the talks, like they had those little pockets of talks, but it was already like, at that time I already knew for myself what I knew.
Yeah. It was too late.
It was
you learned what you learned from elsewhere.
You're right.
So yeah, and that's what I wish I learned from. I didn't have any sex talks at all. What I knew, I learned from TV, I learned from friends, I learned from church, porn. So
right.
Even all those different sources that I learned from, not one of those sources said the truth, at least the fullness of the truth. And so what church taught me is sex is bad, sex is a sin against God, wait till marriage.
Right.
Right. Friends taught me sex is good, you missing out, girl. Porn taught me that sex was supposed to be something adventurous and erotic and a whole bunch of other stuff.
What would you say that so church taught you sex was bad, friends taught you sex is good, you're missing out, and porn could have showed you a version, could like gave you a visual to the version, a version.
Yeah, definitely a skewed version.
Right. All that together, like that's a crazy mixture.
Yeah. Imagine growing up with the belief that sex is shameful, is sinful, is dirty. Even the word is dirty, is a bad word. And so there's nothing in the Bible that says sex or sexual pleasure is innately nasty or shameful or sinful, right? Again, going back to the notion that God created sex and sex is good and sex is holy within marriage. You take it out of marriage and it's skewed, right?
Yeah.
So if we think about an example in the Bible, Proverbs 5 talks about sex and the consequences of sex outside of marriage. And it also talks about sex within marriage and the pleasure that should come with it.
Yeah. Man, it does come with it.
And also, and sex outside of marriage also comes with consequences. And even if it's not physical consequences, sin is a punishment of itself. So that condemnation is a punishment of itself, not from God, but sin does its own punishing, right? Mm-hmm. Just the weight. All in all, let's change the conversations that we're having about sex when it comes to sex. Change the conversation. And the change needs to be to the truth. So keep it real and all the way real. Don't sugarcoat it. Don't skew it, but literally just speak what is true, what God says, what the Bible says about sex, about premarital sex, about sex within marriage, about sex as a whole. What does God say? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No more sugarcoating it. Keep it real, because your truth and this truth like this could help somebody in the future, will help somebody in the future, will help somebody who may feel now that they messed up, you know, and treat it right. Because if you give people the truth, the real truth, the whole truth, you give them the tools. So now when they go forward, they can truly understand different things. Even if they still decide, I'm still going to bust it open beforehand. You know what I'm saying? They know the truth. And sometimes that truth will bring the conviction that'll make them go, nah, I should, whatever the case is. Yeah. So just give the truth and don't give a lie. Because we've seen what happens when you tag sex as shameful, period, without any explanation, without the premarital explanation, without the marriage explanation, without what God really thinks about sex as an explanation. You see what happens. There's so many different stories and things that people have gone through and have experienced or thought, and it's just not the way to go about it. If we want people to come to God and come to Christ, you can't do it through omitting. You can't take things out and leave things out. You got to give the whole thing.
Yeah.
Right?
So keep it real.
Keep it real, because sex within marriage is amazing.
So let's have a conversation. Let's have a real honest conversation, y'all. Let us know in the comments. Where did you learn about sex? Who taught you? Who taught you about sex? What did they teach you? So what did you learn about sex? And what do you wish you learned about sex? About sex, about premarital sex, about married sex. What do you wish you learned? What do you wish you knew when it comes to the topic of sex?
Let us know. Put it in the comments. So, you just kicked it again with the Kings.
Thanks for kicking it.
Okay.
And we'll probably see y'all
soon.